right off the bat, the movie's like, don't trust anybody that's black. If anybody happens to be black, don't trust them. And then you throw in Black Felix Leiter.
Stop it!
And then you throw in Rosie, and then even Rosie ends up betraying him. But then we have our numero uno, our favorite guy in the world.
My regards to Baron Samedi, man. Right between the eyes.
Quarrel. Literally son of Quarrel.
I will drink for this, but in the books, Quarrel is first introduced in this book, because this book was the second book in the franchise. They introduced Quarrel in this book. So when they went to do Dr. No, Fleming brought Dr. No back. So then when they got to this movie, they're like, well, we need to have...
brought Quarrel back.
Yeah. So we need, for this movie, we need to have Quarrel, but we already killed Quarrel with the flamethrower in Dr. No. So then they said, well, we'll have Quarrel Jr. It was kind of lazy, but it works.
And what's fun about it is that his reveal is fun, where, we have Rosie, who's like, they do that classic, it looks like Quarrel's like ready to like choke the life out of Bond, and then Rosie comes out, Anyway, Scott, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, can we talk about Mr. Big?
Do you have a pimp mobile, a white? Can we get a make on a white pimp mobile?
Yeah, let's talk about the alter ego, Mr. Big.
Mr. Big, yeah.
How does that work? Well,
what's interesting is, like you pointed out, McCurdy, Yaphet Kotto, the actor, didn't like all the stereotypes in his character, but his character is split between two personas. So what he was able to do was to take all those stereotypes and they flow into Mr. Big, who is a fake persona. He's not even real. He's literally a performance of a stereotype. And then you jump over to Dr. Kananga, who is then free to just be Yaphet Kotto performing this highly intelligent bad guy hell-bent on taking over the drug trade in America. But they're able to get away with all those stereotypes because Mr. Big is a falsity. He's just a performance of Dr. Kananga. It's Dr. Kananga weaponizing stereotypes in his favor to cover his tracks.
Is this the stupid mother that tailed you uptown?
There seems to be some mistake. My name is...
Names is for tombstones, baby. You all take this honky out and waste him, now.
Like I said, get rid of at least one of these chase scenes, and you could have improved this movie significantly by exploring the world of Mr. Big, or exploring the world of Kananga, developing Kananga and Solitaire's relationship. It just would have. I just think Kananga is such an interesting bad guy, and there's so much more. There's so much more under the surface that was never realized, and I think that's a tragedy of this movie. With Diamonds, again, without rehashing that whole episode, their whole approach was like pure entertainment, and the chase scenes were motivated, and everything was for fun, and even Blofeld was reduced to this like stupid cartoon, but it was still fun. Like, I still think Charles Gray is just so much fun.
Yeah.
And with this, the material asks you to take it a little bit more seriously, but they didn't explore the material. Instead, they just fell back on like, well, I guess we'll just have Bond run away again. And they reduced Kananga to just being as stupid as You Only Live Twice Blofeld, where he's just a guy in a chair being like, go kill Bond, kill him. Why isn't he dead? Spare no expense. Make sure Bond dies. Kill him, kill him, kill him. And he just becomes completely stupid and ineffective. I'm all about the bad guy having an ego where it's like capture Bond and keep him alive so that I can torture him to death. Like, I love that stuff. But even when he does capture Bond, I mean, let's talk about the final scene, because if there's one thing that is gonna take this movie and sink it down below for me, it's gonna be the final scene with Kananga. There is nothing worse, in my view, there's nothing worse in the Bond universe than the death of Kananga. It's the most ridiculous and stupid and just like,
come on.
who the fuck's idea was this? It's
Yeah, that was
embarrassing. Like the fact that he
The worst.
okay, so like they capture Bond. Fine, that's great. And he and his ego, Kananga's ego is like, I'm gonna slowly lower him into my shark pit.
It's gonna be sharks again.
Okay, fun. But like Bond's got his magnet watch. They're being slowly lowered. He looks at the little pellet sitting on the desk and he's like, ooh, I could use that. And it's like, first off, it's like, okay, why? Why does he target that? Does he have in his mind that he's going to get down and he's going to blow up Kananga with the pellet? This whole movie that is slightly more, again, it's to be taken a little bit more seriously than Diamonds Are Forever. It ends with like what's essentially the dumbest fart joke on the planet. You could have had a classier death for your interesting bad guy. And instead, they just fall back on this embarrassing balloon death. I've never been able to get over it. I mean, even as a kid, I was like, "That's
definitely brings
so
the movie down a peg.
stupid."
Yeah, I agree. Like it's one like with Rosie Carter or it's Carver. Rosie Carver. And his death. I think they definitely bring down the movie. I don't disagree with you that they could have used more with him or seeing him do other things. Like we've established and talked about in other films where like the villain, like in Thunderball, Largo is an active villain. Goldfinger, he is an active villain. As far as he's not a guy in a chair, he's out doing his thing. Yeah. But that being said, into my point earlier about we actually see his empire and how it actually operates and how he's powerful, how powerful this guy is. Yeah. I think that's what makes him interesting because we actually do see that stuff. Like even the CIA is trying to track this guy and we realize like, oh, he's this really cool operation where he knows the CIA is after him. He knows MI6 is after him. So he has this whole elaborate plan that he's the head of this country, right? And then he goes to Harlem, hides out as Mr. Big.
I wish to point out that too many of our island neighbors,
and even has like tape recordings. He knows he's being watched. And then the fact that all of his operatives are all throughout Harlem. This is a really big scale operation. We actually see all the facets and where everything is in the film. So that to me is a plus. But the end of the movie, I agree with you. I think the end of the movie sucks that, and to add to your point, Charlie, though, that shark gun is like a throwaway line. Like Quarrel's like, okay, you have the shark gun now as well.
You're going to need these and the shotgun on the way back.
The shotgun is used brilliantly on Whisper, though, when he shoots the couch.
I do love that.
He just
It's so funny.
And Whisper's sitting there and he's like, ha ha, ha
Ingenious!
But no, it's a terrible death. It's a terrible death for a potentially good.
It's the
bad
terrible
guy.
death.
It
It's
is the terrible
worst
death.
Bad guy death. I think it's the worst one we'll ever see.
Yeah, it is. He inflates. He explodes like an actual balloon. There's no blood. There's no flesh. There's no nothing.
But as far as deaths go in films, like you've got this death at the top, and then right under it's Fiona. For the fact that the villain itself is probably one of the better villains in the franchise, and yet the death for that villain is so pathetic and so like, oh, that could have had such a better death than that. But to me, again, like I don't think that ruins the movie. I think it ruins the movie from being like higher up on the list, but it doesn't ruin the movie for me as being better or being worse than Diamonds.